Sorry, I have a headmistress's voice, so basically you can nearly hear me anyway with that. Come on,
Am I
boy,
coming up? I'm
on you
coming up. I
come.
come up. Okay.
Yay! JP and McMahon,
No.
good. How exciting is it to get this boy down from Galway
Oh, well, listen.
all the way. You're so welcome. And thank you all of you there for joining us this afternoon. JP, many of you will, this boy's a legend, as you know. He has more ideas every 5 minutes than the rest of us have in a year. But anyway, I don't know how many of you have managed to get to his Food on the Edge, which is so inspirational. Brought the best chefs, most talented people from all over the world for all of us to meet and everything. And you're moving it to Galway this.
Again, we're going back to Galway in October.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you where yet because we have to announce that at the end of the month.
Do you know?
Oh, do I know now? Yes, I do, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great. That's
I think
good
so.
anyway. Lovely. So basically, just before, in case I forget to say it, for those of you who may not already know, JP is doing lunch tomorrow down in the kitchen shed. And I don't know, it's probably booked out, but we can ask Emer might know if there are any places left.
Yeah.
You'll find out. Okay. Fantastic.
is that
So
on,
it's your
Emer?
opportunity to have a taste of his
Yeah, cool.
yummy, yummy food.
Yes.
Now, what are you going to do for us? I could read out a ton of more stuff, but anyway,
that's fine.
I won't.
Oh, for the
So-
meal or for now?
No, about you.
Oh, about
Lots
me?
of
Oh, don't
things.
read anything out.
I know, you gave me a big brown envelope earlier.
Yeah, no, don't.
Okay.
There's nothing worse than when people talk about you.
Oh, well, anyway. So what are you going to do for us now? You've got a Michelin-starred restaurant. So what have you decided to do for us this afternoon?
I'm going to cook spaghetti bolognese.
Yay!
Yeah, so...
We love it.
Because the last thing you want is something chefy at about 5 o'clock on a Saturday. Now,
Yeah.
as my daughter says, I'm incapable of not making things chefy. So I will do my best to make it normally.
Good.
And no, it's one of my favorite dishes. And I've said it plenty of times. It was one of the first things that I had growing up that I think that showed me that food could be something else than just food on a plate and you eat when you're hungry. It was like it really, I suppose it spiked my interest. And I had this when I was...
Well, indeed, spaghetti bolognese can be something on a plate just to eat when you're hungry. But
that's the
so we're
unfortunate
looking
thing as
forward
well.
to your version of it.
But
Yeah.
yes, and there's nothing too fancy about it. But at the same time, and I did this... did these videos online recently for 10 things your kids should know how to cook.
Yes,
and,
well
and
done
we've had these conversations,
Oh, well
and
done, yeah.
and one of the dishes was spaghetti bolognese. So
Yeah.
you're 7, or maybe 7's a bit too young. 9-year-old should be able to make this.
Yeah.
Definitely your 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that takes in so many different aspects that you can apply it to so many other dishes. Like you make a tomato sauce or you brown mince, so it's always great to show people dishes that turn into other dishes. And I think once you realise that, it's
and of course the sauce can be served with lots of other things.
you can just do the pasta itself with the sauce. So it's
totally.
absolutely. Okay, so
Yay,
will I go?
On you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will I start? Will I start?
Yeah,
Yes,
you
absolutely.
start. I'm not doing it.
No worries. So you can see this is entirely improvised. I lost 10 minutes already.
Did you really?
No, I'm joking. And so you're all very, very welcome here. And it's as Darina said, it's a pleasure to be down in Ballymaloe. And as I said, I can't remember who rang me to say, would you come down and cook? And they said, could you don't do something too chefy? So I said, look, I will do something that is very personable to me. And while most of you hopefully most of you would know what spaghetti bolognese is, and if any of you's Italian in the room, you'd probably be like twitching because it's not real. But it's very real for us Irish people. And even if you try and make it more real, as my brother who has an Italian restaurant, and try and do a ragu alla tagliatelle, people will still call it the bolognese and still order it as such. So it's a very simple dish, and I make this like once or twice a week for my kids. Neither of them are very good at eating. They're terrible eaters, and one of them will eat the pasta by itself, and the other one will eat the bolognese. So
that cheers us all up, doesn't it?
Yes, no, they're terrible. And the 15-year-old is in her takeaway phase at the moment, so literally I'm just trying to ignore her. And as she comes by with all the takeaway boxes, or I have to take them out of the room. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to blend up the onions. And so, as I said, it's not very chefy. I'm not going to dice them up and demonstrate some immaculate skill. I'm just going to quarter them, even half them. It doesn't really matter. Using a blender to make it is the reason why I started using the blender. Actually, I forgot why I started it. It's because when the kids were younger, we used to try and hide the vegetables in it, and then so you put in like the mushrooms and the carrots, and then you just blend them up and you put them into the tomato sauce. But the funny thing was when I would make it, I don't know what was going wrong. When I blended it, like the sauce went orange, and I was like, and then they were like, it's not like Mammy's bolognese. Mammy makes the bolognese, blah blah blah. So I just said I'm not putting carrots and mushrooms into it anymore. And even though for many people, like carrots and mushrooms are really important, or some people do carrots and celery, I gave up on carrots and celery. And you might think that's a small thing, but I do sometimes lie in bed at night and think about why I don't put the carrots and the celery, and should I...
Come on, hang on a minute. Tell us what's going in there.
Oh, sorry. Rosemary and thyme. Sorry.
Good.
So
lots of garlic.
4 cloves of garlic, and 1 or 2 onions. Depends how big or small your onion is. So this is the little mix, and you're also going to put your salt in here, okay? So it's really important that when you have your onions and your garlic, you put a little bit of salt in, you blend it up, because then the salt starts to do its job, which is to make the thing taste nicer. We're also going to get some oil, and we're going to put a dash of oil in. That's just going to help it blend, and then we're going to blend it up. And how you want to blend it depends on you and how stressed you are. If the kid is pulling on your leg, you blend it less. If there's no one beside you, then you blend it a bit more. That's okay. Yeah. And this is a Thermomix, and I have one at home. I have the old model. If anyone likes blenders, the old model is better.
We'll be delighted with you.
And this is because the new model is like you pretty much like having a laptop in the kitchen now.
Which rules all of us who are over 50 out. There we are.
But the great thing about it is that in a few seconds, it blends it for you. Okay?
Yeah.
So
Super.
we're going to put that into our frying pan, which I don't even know the temperature, but we'll see what happens when it hits it. It's grand. Yeah. You know, I always say to people, you should be able to cook with a blindfold on, in the sense that often we don't use our ears enough when we cook. And when you put something in the frying pan, you can hear it frying, and that's the sound of something frying. And even though you might think, oh sure, like I know what the sound of frying sounds like, but you'd be amazed how many people fry stuff and there's not enough oil in the pan, or there's no oil because they think oil is bad or butter is bad, or look, cabbage can kill you as well, but nobody likes it. So that is why we don't have cabbage warnings on the side of the road. You have warnings for like butter and sugar and salt, but really enough of anything will kill you. So think about that the next time you're eating cabbage. Okay, so I'm going to turn that up, and that's our onion base. And if you wanted to put some carrots in, absolutely by all means. But this is one you can cook in about half an hour. Now I did say this to an Italian, and they nearly had a stroke, because when I told them I could cook bolognese, a ragu in half an hour, she was like, oh my God. And even when I said an hour, they went, no, 8 hours. So don't mind them. That's why Italy is in the state it's in. So
JP, I'm off to introduce a rival gig next door.
Okay. Don't get me wrong.
You're on your own now, just in case
I love the Italians. Right, no worries. So onion is on. We have 1 tin of tomatoes. We have 140 grams of tomato puree. So that is a whole tin. And people always say, God, there's a lot of puree going in there. But the puree, it gives the bolognese depth and color. And there's nothing worse than like a grey bolognese that's just like sad and grey. And I've seen many of them. People send me pictures of them and go, there's something wrong with my bolognese. I should be like a bolognese doctor, sorting out people's bologneses. A little bit of salt in there. So it's really important that you salt every stage. Okay, you salt the meat, you salt the tomatoes, you salt the onions. If you think it's too much salt, it's only just because the propaganda is working and people are telling you not to use enough salt. You do need salt. I actually find I don't use that much black pepper anymore because we don't use it in Aneer. Just because it wasn't Irish and we were kind of trying to do this whole non-Irish thing, or this Irish thing, sorry. And it kind of affected me in ways that I don't use black pepper anymore. And you kind of realize, and it's another little enlightening thing, is that you realize that black pepper isn't actually necessary. I mean, salt is really necessary, but black pepper is not necessary. For life, that is. Salt, you will die without salt. You will not die without black pepper. Okay, will you blend that for me? And then, what else was I going to say? Black pepper. Oh, yes, salt. So you can put black pepper in if you want. Normally, I just put it in at the end. And again, it's just the kids have ruined me. So if you put black pepper in the dish, then there's little black things, and they're going, I don't like that, and then you have to take it out. This is my life. Okay, onions are sweating. And if I'm going faster than usual and someone puts it up on social media later on, they're saying he didn't sweat his onions enough. Disclaimer, I am not sweating my onions enough, okay? Just in case someone tries to get the better of me. So, red wine. I think red wine is really important in the Bolognese. You want to do about 250 ml. You can leave it out if you want. But even when I'm cooking for the kids, I think after 7 minutes, you have very little alcohol left. After 45 minutes, you have less alcohol that's in a kombucha. You have 0.1 something or so. You like, it's not something you should be worried about. As with salt, like alcohol is really important for cooking because, in a nutshell, other than it makes you happy, what you get when you use alcohol in cooking, right, is okay. So this is only 2022. It's still 2 years ago, and that liquid was made 2 years ago. And so what you get when you use alcohol in cooking is time. You get compressed time. And that's why if you use a whiskey that's 5-year-old and peated, then you get those flavors, and that gets compressed into your dish. So that's why we use alcohol. Red wine. Then we're going to go in with some beef stock, and I normally just use one of the little cubes. I don't even use water. I just throw the cube into the mixer and blend that as well. So at this stage, you should have an awful looking purple mess in the pan that doesn't look edible at all. Okay, and we're going to reduce that down, and then what we're going to do is we're going to season our mince and put some more sea salt on it, and we're going to rub that in. Okay. So that's that, and really that's why I have a glass of wine. There isn't that much to do, you know. You can pan fry the mince separately. Sometimes I pan fry it separately, but I just forgot. So let's not worry about that. Actually, can this yolk work on the induction?
I think it can.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just put that on, and we'll just brown that mince. Because normally I do that first. I forgot completely. Normally I throw the mince in first. Grand. Okay, we'll put that on, and we'll put a bit of oil there. Okay, so, and really, the most important thing that you're doing here with your onions, okay, is you're reducing the beef stock and you're reducing the wine until the alcohol is almost gone, and then you're just left with the essence of that wine is, okay, and the flavor of that wine, and that's why. When you use wine for cooking, you shouldn't use a wine that you don't like, because it's not that you can use something. I hate the word cheap, but you can use something inexpensive. You don't want to use something really expensive because you're burning off the alcohol anyway. So it's a waste of money. But you don't want to use something you don't like, because if you make, I don't know, a fish dish with a wine that you hate, like an oaked Chardonnay, then there's a good chance you will not like the dish that it's made with. So do use something that you like, okay? Right, so we're going to brown this. I'm just raging now I didn't do this first, but anyway, who cares? No, I do care, but I meant really, who cares? I don't think anyone here going to wake up in the night and go, oh my God, he forgot to brown the mince first. If you remember my name, I'll be happy. Okay, so we're going to put some salt in the water. And normally I would not put Malden into the water. Malden is expensive, but it's the only thing I have in front of me. So, now, like, how salty you want your water is, in relation to the Italians, I do not, they like the water as salty as seawater, which is like 3% or maybe 3.5%. So, it's super salty. So, in relation to that, I do not use enough salt. In relation to everything else, I use enough salt. And as a nurse once said to me in my cooking class, said, you know, when you say a little bit, you mean a lot. And I said to her, well, if you say a lot, if you put a lot of butter in that, it doesn't sound nice. So if you say, oh, just put a little bit in and then put a lot in, it sounds way better and you feel better. So anyway, so always when I say put a little bit of butter and a little bit of salt, I mean a good bit. Right, okay, so this is reducing down. We're going to put on our pasta in a second. And normally pasta takes about 10 minutes. I always time pasta because there's nothing worse than overcooked pasta or undercooked pasta. Now, I'm not like an al dente purist or anything. As my daughters beat that out of me and said, like, the pasta's not cooked, we're not eating it. And then they don't eat, and then you're stressed, and then you got to give them chocolate bars or whatever. So I always make sure I overcook the pasta at home so they said, if you can suck the pasta, it's ready. And I was like, well, I don't really want to be making that, but listen, that is all right. So once your beef stock and red wine is reduced, we're going to put in our tomatoes. So if you just imagine the beef is in there, okay? So listen, I am going to add it in, but just imagine, okay? Now, and then we're going to keep on cooking that. Normally I give that a little rinse. Usually give that a rinse and then I can throw in the remainder. Yep. And you can see at the moment that it doesn't have a great color. And if you keep on stirring it, the tomato puree will get integrated. And then it's all about the cooking time, okay? And so normally from this point on, I put on a timer. And the minimum that you want to cook that for is half an hour. Now, absolutely, you can cook it for an hour if you have lots and lots of time. But half an hour is better. And because the more you cook it at a low temperature, the more moisture evaporates and the more the sauce develops. Now, when it starts to spit, you turn it down. At least my cooker does that as well. And then literally just leave it uncovered, smashing. You just be careful when you're rinsing it that you don't put too much water back into it. It doesn't really matter that much. You just end up needing to reduce it. So what we have is a tomato sauce and we have mince. So it will turn into a bolognese sooner or later. Okay, it would have worked if I had thrown it all in anyway. So listen, browning the mince is. I wouldn't say necessary. Necessary is the wrong word. Because the mince is going to cook anyway in the sauce. Really what browning the mince does is it just sears the mince slightly and it gives it a bit more depth of flavor. But it will absolutely work. If you put everything in the Thermomix and just blended it and then put it into the pot, you'd get a similar effect. I don't think your children would notice. And you would have one less pot. Okay. Depends how, kind of, if they're gourmands or not. Okay. We're going to put on our pasta, and I'll just get, well, I don't know what time it is, but it is 25 past. Okay, so your water has to be boiling. Do not put your pasta into unboiling water, if unboiling is the word. And then when you put your pasta in, because I did work with Italian once before, and he'd give you a good slap if you didn't do this. When you put your spaghetti in, you have to push it apart. The reason for that is that it just turns out into one big, massive clump. And you just stir the pasta until it has all come apart. And it's really good to do that with all pasta, whether you throw a whole bag of penne in there or you throw a whole bag of whatever else, fusilli or anything like that. It's just keep giving it a stir, and honestly, your pasta will love you more. Okay? Right. Okay, back over here. And all of this moisture in the mince is literally liquid that is boiling off. And so normally when I pan fry it, you actually want to pan fry the mince until the moisture disappears, and that's when you get to the point where it's all browned. And that's pretty much, we don't really have anything else to talk about, so you can all go home. I mean, hopefully now you can eat it. I don't know if you're allowed to eat it. Are they allowed to eat it?
We don't quite have a taster.
Okay, sure you can, yeah, listen, you can see. We'll see. I know, I'm always the one that gives tastings when you're not supposed to. I should bring a load of forks with me. Anyway, I better stop, I get in trouble. Right, does anyone have any questions, no? Yeah?
Do you put oil in the pasta as well?
No. And so there's a little bit of a yes and a no to that answer, because I read once years ago that you don't put oil in because, particularly when you're making a tomato sauce, that the tomato won't stick to the pasta if there's fat on the pasta. And generally speaking, if I'm making a pasta dish that is not a tomato-based one, I would put oil or butter in it after it. But I don't think you need it. I mean, people used to put it in to stop the pasta sticking together. But if you actually just move your pasta around a small bit, then you should be fine. And even though like pasta is really simple to make because it tells you how to make it on the packet, you'd be amazed how many people that can mess it up. So I think it's an achievement if you cook pasta and someone says, that's really nice pasta. Like you didn't make it or anything, but it's still nice, you know. Anyone else? Oh, yes? Oh, up there, sorry. Yeah, sometimes it depends on the mince. And like if the mince is, like if you get 5% mince, and you get 5% and 10% and 20%, if you get 5% mince, sometimes there's not enough fat. And if you really want to brown your mince. Now, I think for a Bolognese, I'd like once it's like kind of like somewhere between anemic and brown, whatever that color is. I am happy with that color. If you really want to brown your mince, what I would do is, see, I have all this, I'm sure you can see this, I have all this liquid in here. So after you've cooked this, you could strain out that liquid because that's water. So that is like water, it won't brown when there's moisture in it. And then you can put oil back in the pan and then fry your mince again. But what you really want, you want to get rid of all of that liquid. Now I could just wait here after you're all gone home and it'll evaporate eventually, but we're not going to wait. We are going to start putting our mince in there. Would you grab us a slotted spoon, Emer? Yes. Is there a slotted spoon? Yeah. Oh, cool. Now, this is the first time I've ever cooked mince separate. I don't know why. It's just, yeah, you go on stage and then you forget your name. So, right. And you can see there's loads of moisture. And it really just depends on, sometimes depending on the mince you get, some mince is watery than others. It's not necessarily a bad sign. I mean, if it's really watery, that is possibly a bad sign. But there is moisture, water in beef, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. If we reduce that down, then we can actually put it in. If we reduce it down to nothing, to like a little teaspoon. Okay, so it's looking a little bit better. I'm going to just turn this back up since I've put this on, and we're trying to go as fast as possible. No. Oh, into the Bolognese? No, you don't need to. Because the object for me of the Bolognese is to try and actually get rid of as much water as possible. But if I was making pasta with butter, now I know it doesn't sound like a dish, but that's what my daughter likes to eat. Pasta with butter and parmesan. Now there's enough butter in it. Like you put about 100 grams for 500 grams of pasta. Then I would put some starchy water in. Usually when there's fat in it. So if you have a creamy sauce, then you want to put in a bit of starchy water because you want to let it down. So what's the pasta pepper dish? Chow pepe. Yeah. So I usually use a bit of starchy water in relation to that. Okay. So that absolutely, I can tell by the color of it, it needs at least half an hour. But we ain't got half an hour. We have 15 minutes, so you can eat it, taste it, and go, that wasn't great. And then you can go home and be happy because I cooked and you were like, it wasn't great. And then you can go up on Twitter and say, I had JP McMahon's food today, it wasn't great. And then someone responds, said, I was in his restaurant recently, it wasn't great either. And then there you go, you can have a conversation. So really hard. Okay, I was going to throw that back in. Right, it wouldn't matter. It'd be sterilized anyway, so. Okay, anyone else got any questions? Oh, yeah? You'll have to get that translated. Yeah? Yes, always. I always mix it. Now, some people do not. There's two types of people in the world. The people who like mixing their pasta in the bolognese and the people who do not like mixing the pasta bolognese. And some people get very stressed out if you mix the pasta into the bolognese and then you give it to them, and they get really stressed. So I generally like to give people the option of leave the pasta there and the bolognese. But me, I just like to put the whole thing in a pot, and then you can eat it for 3 days. Yeah, so you can make this by yourself, and if you don't have children, and you can eat it for 3 days and be happy. So, anyone else? Yeah? Oh, it's like it's a bigger than a frying pan. It's kind of like a shallow saucepan. I find it's better than a frying pan because usually sometimes when if you have a frying pan and you put in the tomatoes, then it starts to come out the sides, and so a little bit of a saucepan is better. And unfortunately, because there is so many cheap frying pans in the world, I think we take that off. That we have an addiction to cheap frying pans and pots, and we keep on buying them and keep on throwing them out. And I wouldn't even say you have to go that expensive. Like if you literally spend like €50 on your frying pan, it should last you 10 or 15 years. If you spent €100 on your frying pan, you should be able to give it to your grandchildren. And yet we keep on buying €15 frying pans in the supermarket. You go, oh my God, frying pan. And you bring it home, and then 2 months later it's gone. And then you go buy it again, and you go, oh my God, frying pan. And then you go, oh my God, new pot. And then you don't need that pot. And usually, like, there's loads of different brands, but like Stella are very good. And for about €300, you can get 6 pots. And I know it sounds crazy. Put it for your birthday, wedding gifts. I bought a set 20 years ago, and they're just pots. They're not, and I think I spent €200 on 5 or 6 of them, and I still have them. So they should last you forever. But it's just that we're just have a tendency to go around. Now I do go, oh my God, frying pan, and buy it, and then I have to put it back. So, but listen, there's always sales on the pans, and Le Creuset are very good. I don't like their frying pan because it's a bit too heavy. But Le Creuset pots are great for any of the casseroles and that, and they're really hard to break. I mean, you can drop them on the floor and your floor will break. So it's okay. Pasta should nearly be done. We got 1 more minute and then we'll test it. Because sometimes I find, even though it says 10 minutes, when you put it into the water temperature drops, and then after 10 you taste it and you go, it needs another minute. So sometimes I find it takes 12 minutes, but that's just me and just sitting by looking at the pot going, I wonder how long that would take. But that's the way I blame my father. He was a scientist, and this the only thing I took. I'm terrible at maths, but at least I like temperatures and timing things. So and even though we don't need a thermometer today, if you don't have a thermometer in your kitchen, please go out and buy one. And I don't mean one of those old ones you stick into the turkey that has the red yolk. I mean like a digital thermometer. It's the absolute, like, your best friend for cooking. When you like, everything has a temperature. Like, it's not, like, there's a lot of creativity in cooking, a lot of humor, as you can see. But at the end of the day, like, everything has a temperature and everything has a time. And depending on how you want to do it, and it's that simple. And it's not rocket science. Like, it's literally just time and temperature. Put it in the pan, try not to burn it, and there you go. You have your food. Okay. Now, we'll just check this one more time. Yeah, when you can break it, it's nearly done. Or you can throw it at the wall as well. Or throw it at your child. But no, don't. Only if they're annoying you. Because like boiling pasta, tell you, sort them out. No, I'd never do that. It needs 1 more minute. I have never done that, just in case there's anyone watching from the ISPCA or something like that. Oh yeah? Oh, I might have done lobster or something. I usually like doing lobsters on stage because it's the only thing you're allowed to kill in a room full of people, and because you couldn't bring a cow or a sheep, but everyone feels sorry for the lobster because he's dying, but then no one feels sorry because they all eat him. So I think it's nice to do it because it just shows us that we're all just human at the end of the day, and we eat things that are alive, and that's it, you know. As I said, if you could hear the leek scream, you probably wouldn't eat it either. But look, our ears aren't attuned to leeks. Okay, we can strain that. There are some scientists that believe leeks have feelings. You can look, if you want to Google, do leeks have feelings? I have Googled it. Or do vegans eat mussels? That's another good thing to Google if you're late at night and you want to know. Because a mussel has no feelings. It's just a mussel. But then they go, oh, no, I didn't mean that. I meant. So if you ever want to confuse a vegan, tell them that the mussels have, that the leek has more feeling than the mussel. And then you're in trouble. But don't get me wrong, we feed lots of vegans in our restaurant and vegetarians, and I love them all. And I think it's really important to eat plants and plant-based food. But it's always for a good to have a bit of crack. While we're waiting for that, I'll tell you some of my favourite vegan stories. We once had a vegan in the restaurant and had like 20-something courses of vegan dishes, and then at the end of the meal they had a cheese board, and then they said, I love finishing my meal with a cheese board. And so I said, listen, give her a cheese board. But it's also the same for the people who are gluten intolerant, who are just intolerant and who are not gluten. who taste gluten-free bread and go, I don't like gluten-free bread. Can I have the normal bread, please? So we have lots of those people. Or I felt bloated when I booked, so I'm regular now. So. Listen, I have heard it all, and you think I'm making this up. I am not. We get these phone calls every single day. So if you're going to ring a restaurant and you do not like flour or whatever, just say, I don't like flour. It's a really normal thing to say. You don't have to say, I'm hyper-allergic to lamb. I had that one recently, and I was like, lamb allergy? I said, oh, yeah, no lamb on the table at all. So I had to Google, can people be allergic to lamb? And you can be allergic to the wool, but not to the actual lamb. So I bet you there's someone in the audience who's going to come up and tell me they have a lamb allergy. Because the last time I was joking about one of a vegetable allergy, and someone came up and said, you're mocking me. So I said, okay, sorry. I do know someone with a tomato allergy that can literally has an anaphylactic attitude to tomatoes, and so you can have a tomato allergy. I'll give you that. But lamb, I don't know. And so just say I don't like it, because we always try and run down and save them before they eat the butter or something. They go, oh no, sure, a little bit's grand. Which is Ireland's answer to allergies. A little bit is grand. So not the same if you're stateside. So okay, pasta's there, and normally when you take your pasta out. Is that cold water or warm water? Cold water. So normally when you take your pasta out, it'll stick together. And normally I run it under the cold tap. I know that sounds counterintuitive, because we all like things really hot in Ireland. We're really afraid of stuff being cold. So I run it under the cold tap for like a millisecond. And what it does is it just washes the starch off the pasta, because you don't want the starch on the pasta, because it's all going to stick together. Now you can put oil, but you don't want to put oil if you have a tomato-based dish. So if you're doing just like a butter pasta, then absolutely just put some oil in, you don't do the water. But if you're doing a kind of ragu dish, anything with a load of tomatoes, just rinse the pasta under cold water. And if it's not hot enough for you, just in case, then you can warm it back up. There's nothing to stop you warming it back up, okay? So this, of course, this should be on for another little while, but we don't have another little while. Have we got 5 minutes now? What time is it? We have 5 minutes. Okay, we'll cook 5 more minutes, and then we'll get our bowl, we mix it all together. You guys can have a little taste, and you can say it was the best or the worst, or it was somewhere just indifferent. As my daughter says to me, you try too hard. And I appreciate it, because it keeps you really grounded. You know, your daughter says, you're just trying too hard. You just make I sent one of them down, we were making carbonara once. I actually have to watch myself now, because they're 15 and 12, and they go, I heard you were talking about me on stage. Because you don't have the right to do that. And I was like, yeah, shaming me on stage. So I'd say for the 15-year-old, and just about the last year I'll be able to mention her. I just got away with putting her face in the book when she was 8, and she was like, and you never got permission from me to put that photograph in. And I was like, I didn't know I needed permission from my own daughter. And she was like, you do. And I was like, grand. But I sent her down, we were making carbonara, and I sent her to the shop to get some bacon. and she came back with a Nora ready-made mix of carbonara and said they had no bacon, but I got this. And I was like, that's not carbonara, it's powdered something or other. And she said, well, I'm going to make it. And I was like, well, go on, make it. So she boiled the kettle and added the kettle to the mixture. And I made the carbonara with no bacon because she didn't give me any bacon. And then she was eating it, this like yellow slop. And then she said, why can't you cook like this? So I know that is the truth of my life with two girls. So when I go into work now, I always go at that level, and I taste things and go, that's all right, it's not great. And because they've trained me to be humble. Okay, could do a bit more cooking, but anyway. Right, we're going to put it in a second. I can't think of any more stories to tell you. But I do believe when you're doing demonstrations, if people aren't laughing, it's not a good demonstration. Yeah, we can take it out. Because no one wants to see just boring cooking, as my daughter says. You got to do something exciting. You got to sell it to them. Okay, so this film that you have here should be gone. Okay, so you see all your bubbles coming together here. Like I'd say another 15 minutes. You want this film to go because this is like a film of like liquid that comes to the top. So once that's all gone, then you're going to be ready. So we're going to put a bit more salt in. And then we will put some in black pepper because they're all adults here, so we can have a bit of black pepper. Yeah, adults can have black pepper. And if you wanted at this stage, you could put in, I call these hard herbs, okay? So when at the beginning of cooking, whenever you're cooking, it doesn't matter what you're cooking, your hard herbs are sage, rosemary, and thyme. They're your hard herbs. They're really good when you're making any onion dish. And then when you're finishing something, you want to use your soft herbs. So that's like basil, fennel, dill. Like there's loads of different ones. But you don't put hard herbs in at the end, okay? Because no one wants to be picking bits of rosemary out of their mouth going, oh wow, this is lovely. And even though you see people stick lumps of thyme into things, you don't want to be eating it. And the same thing that you don't want to put soft herbs in at the beginning, not because they won't be good in terms of the cooking. It's just that you lose the flavor if you put basil in at the beginning or lovage or anything like that, even for fresh coriander, always at the end, okay? Right, this is done. That goes in there. And that's how easy it is. And then you have dinner for 3 days if you're single. Maybe 2, depends how much bolognese you like. Yeah. And you can use any pasta. Again, I use spaghetti, but more often than not, we use penne. I guess my daughter was like, that looks like worms. So listen, they're the things you have to do. Okay. And actually, the first time I had spaghetti bolognese, I'll tell the story because I was in a restaurant in Tipperary called Chez Anne's, and like we did not go to restaurants when I was younger. We went to McDonald's, and that was the only restaurant I knew when I was growing up, and I thought it was the best restaurant ever. And this terrible thing is now my kids think the same. But anyway, I won't have time to tell you the McDonald's story. But anyway, so we went to Chez Anne's, and I was there with all my family, and they were all having burger. And I said, for whatever reason, I said, I'm going to have the spaghetti bolognese. And my mother was like, you won't like it. And I was like, no. She was like, it's foreign. And I was like, so I said, I'm going to have it. And I had it. And I remember thinking, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. And I think it was probably 1986 or 1987. And really the kind of like the Italian Revolution in Ireland, if anyone's old enough. Even though, like if you look back at Irish cookbooks, there was plenty of pasta and Italian food influence in various cookbooks in the 50s. I think Monica Sheridan has some dishes that I included in the Irish cookbook. And what am I talking about? Okay. Oh, Italian food, yes. But it was really Italian 90, and people remember that. But that was the absolute, like the Italianification, if that's a word, in Ireland. That literally, I remember like lasagna, pizza, pasta, everything just started to come in, like the chicken breast stuff with sun-dried tomatoes, all that stuff. And it was like literally, that's how we kind of learned to like food, through the Italians, because we couldn't learn it through the French, because you know what the French are like. So it was really important for me. In the first place I worked in, as a chef, was in an Italian restaurant called Donatello's in Maynooth, a chef from Naples. And I remember, lovely, lovely pasta and bread. I was actually told to stop eating the bread because it was the first time I've ever eaten kind of really great yeast and white bread. And they said, Tony was like, do you ever stop eating? And I was like, no, I do, but just I don't get this at home. Right, bit more salt, bit more herbs. We could have chopped them, doesn't matter. Right, and that's it. Just make sure you put on enough Parmesan. As my daughter says, it melts and then you get to go for a second run. And that's why you have to put on Parmesan twice. So at least they like Parmesan. Anyway, look, so I hope you enjoyed that. Have a little taste. And I'm doing lunch tomorrow if anyone's around. Bolognese is not on the menu. And I hope you enjoy this. Thank you. No pleasure.